Dying in video games suck. You lose all your progress, have to rewatch the same cutscenes you just saw, and basically just waste your time retreading familiar ground until you finally get back to where you were before, and hopefully defeat whatever it was that killed you in the first place. But some deaths are worse than others. Some deaths are so gruesome, so over-the-top violent that they not only destroy the body of the character, but the soul of the person playing. These are the top 10 worst ways to die in video games. To start out the list, we have falling to your death, and I know what you might be thinking, that's not too bad. You'd be wrong, but you would have a point. It seems whenever you fall to your death in a game, they tend to not even show the grisly aftermath, and instead just cut right to the game over screen. But I'm putting it on the list anyway because as a player, there is nothing worse than the feeling you get when it does happen to you. And you all know the feeling that I'm talking about. It happens right at the apex of the jump, when you come to the sudden realization that, oh god, I'm not going to make it to the other side. Hell, it doesn't even have to be a platformer for this to happen. There's nothing worse when you're having a kick-ass fight in the Dark Souls series when your finger slips and you dodge a certain way and, yeah, not the most honorable way to go, is it? My personal favorite, though, has to be the Assassin's Creed games. For a game designed around parkouring your way through a city, the controls always seem to interpret that I want to instead bump into every conceivable wall and jump in completely random directions. Although it can lead to some pretty hilarious mess-ups. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am dead. I'm dead. In Britain. So you're playing some Red Dead Redemption, riding around, enjoying the environments, just doing cowboy things. Just doing cowboy things. Cowboy things. When you decide to take a break and have a dip in the river. Oh. Number 9 is drowning. And while the instant KO of falling into knee-high water can be infuriating, I still prefer it to the levels that let you swim around but give you an air meter. Take Mario 64's Jolly Roger Bay. You think it would be a nice, calming experience, but with that relaxing theme playing in the background, but no! The second you take a dive, your eyes tear away from the beautiful environment and glue right to that air meter. Then the game becomes a frantic, constant search for air bubbles as that air meter slowly dwindles away. And I know it's easy enough to get it back by finding bubbles of air or coins or whatever, but just the fact that I always have to be on the lookout for them always made me nervous as a kid, even now. But none of that can compare to the worst of the worst. The drowning music in the water levels of Sonic the Hedgehog, and the people who know what I'm talking about are already clenching their assholes by the mere remembrance of it. Good God, that music. That creeping, panic-inducing medley that still haunts me to this day. Every time it comes on screen, you know death is imminent. Usually the added pressure just makes me screw up even more as I try to rush to get to the surface, but it never, ever works. I guess I'll just have to go back to doing cowboy things. You know, sometimes I take for granted how awesome being at the top of the food chain really is. I don't have to hunt or forage for food, and I rarely have to worry about being eaten by something bigger and stronger than me. Usually. Not since the incident. But in video games, that's rarely the case. Most of the time in any video game, you can't take 5 steps out of your hometown without being attacked by wild animals, which is why I find the number 8 spot, being eaten alive, especially degrading and downright humiliating. Not just because you died horribly, but because you're also unwillingly providing nourishment for the creature that ate you. Jerk! The Dark Souls series has a ton of these creatures, from giant fish monsters, to rabid dogs, to mimics. Ugh, the mimics. But my favorite game that does this has to be Dishonored, because while with Dark Souls being eaten can be understandable because the monsters here are so vicious, they've got nothing on Dishonored's most vicious enemy, swarms of rats!
Ooh, nasty.
That's it. Just rats. They're not even ROUSs, which I'm pretty sure don't even exist. They're just normal-sized sewer rats, but they come at you like the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. But it's not too bad, because if you invest in your newfound powers wisely, you too can hold all the power of the rat and unleash them upon your enemies. Yes, go my minions, devour them all! I really should not be given even the smallest amount of power. I will abuse it. Leon from the Resident Evil series has seen some stuff. He's suffered through zombie outbreaks, battled horrible cultists, and been forced to babysit a 20-something-year-old bimbo with the survival instincts of a small child. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ashley, get back in the dumpster! He's also got a habit of dying horribly. Just goes around dying, and dying, and dying. But of all the unspeakable horrors he's faced, nothing could have prepared him for his worst foe yet. An unspeakable, utterly repulsive taint stain of a creature that would cost him much more than his life, but his sanity as well.
Resident Evil 6.
God, this game sucks. I've seen dumpster fires with a more comprehensible story. The scariest thing about this game is the cover depicting some guy doing unspeakable things to a giraffe.
Shit!
But if you do suffer through it long enough, you come to a horrible, if not hilarious death that can happen to good old Leon. Eventually, you'll run across this monster called the Rasclapange. I don't know. Which looks like a complete knockoff of the Iron Maiden from Resident Evil 4 if you shaved off all of its spikes and took a cheese grater to its abdomen. Eventually, it'll ambush you during a quick time event, and well, let's just say it sucks for Leon if you purposely fail it. I especially love how even if you fail, the monster still goes down with you anyway, like, yeah, later, suckers! Makes me yearn for the good old days when a man could die with dignity by having his face mauled by a giant wolf, or being eaten by a fish, or just keeps dying and dying and dying and... Call of Duty, yeah! Shoot the guys! Run to the objective, shoot some more guys! They are nothing before the unbridled might of my ability to take multiple bullets to the chest. Friendly shot down in enemy territory? No problem. Wolverines! I am unkillable! I'm invincible! I am... Oh. Oh God. Oh, I am so fucking dead. Number 6 is radiation sickness from Call of Duty 4. And it's not just because having your entire body die from radiation sickness would absolutely suck all of the anuses, which it would, but it's that you also have to watch it play out on the screen. It gives you just enough control to slowly crawl around, completely helpless until your strength finally leaves you and you succumb to the radiation and your own internal injuries. You're not playing Call of Duty anymore, you've switched on Nuclear Fallout Simulator 6, the Middle Eastern Playground Edition. I think this is why that scene resonated with so many people when it first came out. This was the first Call of Duty that I can recall at least that allowed one of its main characters to die off so unheroically. I mean, sure, he ended up rescuing the soldier from the plane, but in the end, ain't nobody getting out of that blast zone in time. I guess I've never seen such a true act of heroism blow up in the player's face like that before. I'm sorry, it is tragic. But I suppose that's what it was intended to do. So maybe you'll think twice before setting off that nuke in Tenpenny Tower.
For now, my America, they must pass. Scoring the greatest...
No, it's still awesome. Not all horrible video game deaths happen directly to the player. Sometimes the character you're playing, whether through plot or the player's own sick sense of ingenuity, can dole out some pretty brutal killings. Which brings us to Grand Theft Auto. San Andreas' main protagonist, CJ, is pretty reprehensible. He goes around killing people, stealing cars, and will pretty much do anything for money. But the game does set up early on how much he cares about his family, and the lengths that he will go for them. So when his sister explains to him that some construction workers are harassing her every time she walks past them, it's understandable that it might make him angry. Now, there's a number of ways he could go about settling this matter, and let's quiz you to see if you can tell what the proper course of action would be. Is it A, calmly explain to the construction workers that that kind of behavior is unwanted and completely unacceptable? B, inform the foreman of the workers' bad language, and barring that, inform the local authorities of the continued harassment? Or C, destroy their buildings with a rocket launcher, trap the foreman inside a porta potty, dump said porta potty in a hole, and bury him alive in a mixture of wet cement and his own feces? Wait, what? All while he screams in fear and agony, by the way.
Oh God, no!
Seriously, I remember when I played this mission as a kid. I had to put the controller down and go have a long, hard look in the mirror before picking it right back up again and going and killing some prostitutes, granted. Moms, don't let your kids grow up to be me. Kratos from God of War is a villain. It doesn't matter if he has a tragic backstory, the guy goes out of his way to make life miserable for anyone unlucky enough to get in his way. His motivations are 100% selfish, and while yes, in the first game he's getting revenge for the deaths of his family, after that it's purely for Zeus trying to kill him. And by doing that, he goes on a god-killing spree and pretty much assures the fall of civilization as we know it. But no god gets it quite as bad as poor Helios, the god of the sun. Helios might have been in over his head from the start. When the vast majority of your power can be replicated by annoyingly shining a flashlight in your attacker's face, you really shouldn't get within arm's reach of a mass murderer. But, like most Greek tragedies, his arrogance and hubris end up getting the best of him. Just listen to him brag and play up his crappy power.
Feel the power of the sun!
Ooh yeah, let's see how that plays out for him. So after Kratos beats on him like he owed him money, that's when the real nasty stuff happens. Yeah, but how though? Are the gods of Olympus just lumpy bags of meat held together by string? Where's your spinal column, bro? The whole reason you have one is so that this sort of thing doesn't happen, and that is a scientific fact. So yeah, you might have plunged the world into ever-loving darkness, but hey, free flashlight. The Dead Space games would not be a fun world to live in when you're not running for your life from some horrible monster, getting blown up by exploding babies, or fending off swarms of demonic children. You're also dealing with everyday annoyances like riding in endless elevators and dealing with the constant eye strain from these low light rooms. I mean, come on, Electric Company, I know it's a bloodbath out there, but do your freaking job! But there's one enemy so vile, so disgusting, so unpleasantly stomach-churning that it just needed to be its own entry on the list. And that enemy? The Puker. Yes, I know with a name like that, it has to be disgusting, but trust me, you have no idea. Well, for starters, let's take a look at it, shall we? When you first encounter it, you run by some poor nurse who seems to be nursing a bit of a hangover. Walk it off, rookie! But then, you get a good look at it. And at first, it might not seem so bad when compared to the other necromorphs. I mean, it's not going to be winning any beauty pageants, but who am I to judge? No, the Puker gets so high up on the list because of its signature attack, and you guessed it, hurling its acidic bile at you. The thing kills you by puking on you. And if that wasn't gross enough, if it manages to get up close to you, well... have fun never eating again. Ready for more Dead Space 2? That last death not sick enough for you? Well, congratulations, because Dead Space 2 grabs 2 spots on the list. One for each Dead Space. We don't talk about that one! But it's kind of funny. Of all the horrible monstrosities that Dead Space has to offer, it's more often than not the environment itself that manages to be the biggest threat. But the nastiest one has to be the Noontech diagnostic machine. Or as I like to call it, why in the unholy god does this thing exist? Its whole purpose is to access information stored away in the back of the brain, and in order to access said information, the person has to drill a needle through their eye hole and jab it into the back of their brain, all while conscious and doing it to themselves. Now, you might give it the benefit of the doubt by saying that a doctor was supposed to be doing it to the person, but why in God's name is there controls on the inside of the machine? So, you strap yourself down and don't screw it up, because if you do, well, it'll blow your mind. I'm so sorry. And it's not like it's much better if you do manage to succeed. You're still getting a needle jammed through your eye hole. Ugh. Although maybe I'm lucky I'm doing the operation on myself. I've seen the success rates of the doctors on this station.
I'm trying! I'm trying!
Yeah, you probably knew it would show up somewhere on the list. But how could I not include Mortal Kombat on a list comprised of horrible video game deaths? It pretty much perfected the concept. Their fatalities are some of the nastiest, most intensely violent acts that, if I was being completely fair, all of the entries on this list would probably consist of fatalities of some sort. Hell, they were so violent they single-handedly brought about the creation of the ESRB rating system, which we all know completely prevented all children everywhere from ever getting their hands on violent games forever. Great job, Mortal Kombat! In fact, if you go through this list again, there's probably a Mortal Kombat fatality to go along with each entry of the list. Spinning blade to the head? Yup. Acid puke? Oh, you know it. Horrible body dismemberment? Just press B. The only one they might not have yet is Buried Alive in Poo Water, but hey, give it a few sequels. But the worst of the worst comes from Noob Saibot's strangely named fatality, Make-A-Wish. Now, this is a complicated fatality, so I'm going to break it down into 4 steps from somebody experiencing it firsthand. Okay, so already it's here that I think maybe this is the extent of the fatality. I mean, I'm a relatively out-of-shape guy who can't do the splits to save his life, so I'm definitely already hurting here. Nope, 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 nope! I had no idea what pain was until this very moment. How the hell are they doing this? Where is my ribcage? Is my body just completely made out of Spam and Jello? I'm starting to think that you two don't like me very much. I mean, man, I'm starting to feel bad about giving Helios such a hard time. Apparently in video games, there's no such thing as bones. I think what makes it worse is that you're not just dying, but you're dying to a guy named Noob Saibot. A character so worthless he needs to make shadow clones in order to have anybody to hang out with him. You're not cool, Noob. You know who else makes shadow clones? Naruto. And trust me, nobody wants to be like Naruto.
Believe it!
You know, when it comes to the subject of death, I believe Dylan Thomas wrote it best when he said, "Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rage at close of day. Rage. Rage against the dying of the light. So that you don't get totally punked out by a stupid-ass shadow ninja." Truly ahead of his time. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to give it a like. And for more completely accurate poetry in future gaming videos, please feel free to subscribe, maybe, if you want. For any other of my other videos, feel free to check it out here. I did one about Final Fantasy summons, and another top 10 down here, revolving around crappy video game dads. Check it out, maybe, I don't know.